And happy new year to everybody, and welcome back to the Movie Pope podcast. And today we have our first guest for 2024. We've got Matt Lowe here, a filmmaker from way out west. Yes, I know it's a bit of a surprise. We normally don't get people from out west on our show, but we are doing it. It's part of our New Year's resolution to get more guests from all over the place and have them come on and talk a little bit about themselves and their work. But before we dive in, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And please share these videos with everybody that you know. Help the channel grow. I think we're at close to 60 subscribers, so we're making some pretty good progress here. Um, just a few things before we dive in. We are going to be jumping back into the movie reviews sometime around January 26th after our well-deserved holiday break. So his moviness will return to review The Holdovers. And starting in March, we will be introducing a new feature called the 60-second review, where the Movie Pope will try to review a movie in 60 seconds or less. So be sure to keep an eye out on that. But today, let's go ahead and welcome Matt Lowe onto the show. Matt, my man, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Luca.
Excellent, excellent. And it's funny because when I put the word out I think it was like last summer, you were one of the one of the people to respond, and by that point we had already gotten a sizable number of people scheduled for 2023. So you were pretty gracious enough to agree to be on the calendar for the beginning of this year. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
now, like I said before, you're out west. What state are you in?
I'm in California. I'm in LA.
LA? Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. How long have you been in LA?
Well, I grew up in Palm Springs, and I have family up here, so I've been around here my whole life. I went to college out here since 2016. Moved back home during COVID for a bit, but have been back out in LA for about a year and a couple months.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. So let's go ahead and dive in. So Matt, you've already given us an idea of where you live. Can you go ahead and just start off from the beginning and tell us who Matt Lowe is, what are his origin stories, and how you became so fascinated with film that you decided to make it a career?
Well, I was a lot of people like start with a fascination of film specifically, but for me it was always like writing. I was just like ever since I I was writing short stories and poems, and eventually I decided, well, I was originally deciding, because it's stupid, but I was thinking, you know what I want to do in my life? I want to be a poet, and that's really there's no money in poetry. I found out pretty fast.
Right.
Yeah, and so then I started going to screenwriting, and then from there, I couldn't get anyone to make my screenplays, so I just made them myself.
So where did you go to school to study screenwriting?
I did not. I studied history at UCLA, actually.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Were you doing any film things on the side or just writing,
Yeah,
writing studying
I'm always
history?
writing, and I shot a few short films in college. I was part of the Film and Photography Society. Shot a short film with them, and then shot a couple short films with my friends.
So UCLA, well, particularly in the LA scene, there are a lot of film programs out there.
Yeah.
How did you kind of get get acclimated to the film to the film scene, or how did you? I guess another way to phrase it is, how did you kind of find your way into into making movies? How did you
Well,
transition from writing to that? Because I know you mentioned it, but
yeah. It's just a trial by fire. I feel like I have a lot of friends that went to film school. I have a lot of friends that didn't go to film school. And I feel like a big difference is that when you don't go to film school, you're kind of forced to do everything yourself. And so you learn a lot more of diverse skills that way that you wouldn't learn if you went to film school and you're just the director and the writer. You have someone produce for you. You have someone to edit for you. You have actors, so I do a lot of that stuff myself just because I don't have anyone available, and so it really it gives you like I'm tooting my own horn here, I guess, but it gives you like a broader picture of how a movie's made from like the bottom to the top, I think.
gotcha. Yeah. And as someone who went to film school, if you're self-taught, there's a bit more of a freedom, as it were, to kind of do your own thing, as opposed to if you went to art school or film school, you kind of have those rules in the back of your mind. Were you aware, or did you just not care about what those rules were? You just picked up a camera and went for it?
Well, I've read the books, and yeah, I'm aware of like the rules of filmmaking. But you know, I feel like in the film club I went to, I feel like there was like, you know, I might be being a little cynical here, but I feel like there was almost like too they were too you know, constringent to those rules. Like I remember submitting a screenplay to the film club, and they said you can't do that, and I was like, what do you mean I can't do that? And they said you just like that's you can't do that. It's like, okay, then I just went and did it myself. And I did it, and it's there. And so it's like I don't get the idea that you can't do something. It's like understanding the rules is necessary, and this has been said a billion times. Understanding the rules is necessary to break them.
Mhm.
But it's just like I feel like a lot of people have this like preconceived idea that the rules are like they have like a religious idea about the rules of filmmaking. Like it's like a sin to break the rules, and it's just, you know, at the end of the day, there's kind of this like intrinsic, like intangible thing about, you know, filmmaking that just like if it works, it works. You know what I mean?
Mhm. So just out of curiosity, because I want to backpedal for a little bit. When you
Yeah.
presented that screenplay to them, they said it wouldn't work. Did they go into specifics as to why it wouldn't
Yeah,
work,
I
or did
can.
they just say, "Yeah, it's not going to work"? Or I mean, because
So
it was just a catch-all term for, "Yeah, we don't really like it. Let's just go ahead and not tell them."
you can go online and you can watch the short film that I've made, Suicide Kills on Prototype Productions, and I submitted this script to the film club, and I got a response back that was basically like, so I'm going to spoil the script because it's a 5-minute short film, so I'm going to spoil it just
Right.
for the purpose of this conversation. But so it's about like it's about the whole, it's like a dark comedy, and it's like a conversation two roommates are having, and it's a kind of a casual conversation, and the whole irony of the situation is that one of the guys is in a noose, and he's like just about to kill himself, and they're just kind of having this casual conversation. And I got the notes back from the script, and they said you can't have someone in a noose about to kill themselves at the beginning of the film and then kill themselves at the end, because he kills himself at the end. He
Right.
just yeah, and I didn't get why you couldn't do that. That didn't make sense to me. Why I get like it's setting it up and you have to have a twist, but it's in my opinion almost like if there's a rule that is done over and over and over again, isn't it kind of more original or more unique to do something else?
So, so you were thinking it from a writer's standpoint, really,
Well,
right?
it's, yeah, storytelling. Yeah, just I mean, it just fit the story because the story um, was about how casually, you know, we take stuff like suicide or like violence in the media and all that stuff because we're oversaturated with it. And if he just like if he decides not to kill himself at the end, then it kind of defeats the purpose of the whole film.
Right. Right. Yeah. 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 Because then it kind of, at least from your perspective, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm
Yeah,
assuming from your perspective, it wouldn't make sense for him to just not go through with it at the end, right?
right. Well, I'm a big proponent of like when I write something, like I have an idea of where I want it to go, but at the end of the day, what the bottom line is like I kind of try to let the characters exist and like try to let them actually like live and breathe. And if it's like I want this to happen in the screenplay, but it's just like the character that exists in this world would never do that, then I let the character do what like they would do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, so how did you hone your skills as a filmmaker? How did you hone your craft in writing scripts and filming and directing and everything?
Just trial by fire, just doing it. Just I mean, that's what I like. If you are trying to like be a filmmaker, don't worry about like you doing 4K footage. Don't worry about, you know, the quality. Just go out and shoot something with your friends, and you'll learn a lot that way.
Got yeah, yeah. That's some pretty solid advice too. Because a lot of people kind of get hang up with, oh, if I don't do this right, then people aren't going to like this, and et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. So,
You don't have to show it to anybody. You don't have to. If just make
yeah,
it for yourself at the very least. It's experience. It's practice. And it's
yeah,
fun.
yeah, I totally hear you on that one. So,
Thanks.
so did you make any other movies while you were at UCLA?
I made three movies. I did make one with the film club. I got one of my scripts accepted, which you could also watch on my YouTube channel, which is called KPINAEW. And that was an interesting one. And then I made one with my friends sophomore year called The Pongsman, which was about beer pong.
Oh god, I love beer pong.
Yeah, you should watch The Pongsman, but especially The Pongsman 2, which I made last summer. It's I made the entire short film while drunk, and all my friends were drunk, and we were in Mexico. And it's terrible, but it's I think it's honestly the best thing I've ever made. Because it's just so funny, I think, but it's just like the quality of the film is actually just awful, as you could expect.
Yeah, so it's kind of going for that, B film kind of quality to it, but it's like, well, we don't
Yeah,
really
it's kind
care
of
because it's
charming
fun.
almost. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I gotta watch that now because you got me sold on the fact that you filmed it while drunk.
Yes, yeah. Well, I was also the main villain too.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha. I will admit there have been times where I've shot several student films, well, a little bit tipsy myself,
Yeah.
so I can't really knock you too much on that one because I've been there. I've been there too. So you graduate from UCLA with a degree in history.
Yeah.
What happens after that?
Well, I mean, COVID happens because I graduated class of 2020, so I kind of took a forced gap
Oh,
year, you
oh
know.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was just writing a bunch during that time, pretty much.
So in terms of writing, was there like a particular style or particular genre that you go for, or do you just like go for anything goes, whatever comes to mind?
Uh, well, I just whatever inspires me, but I draw my favorite genres like by far are comedy and horror. I I will watch like all my favorite movies are comedy and horror movies.
So in terms, so that's another thing I want to ask you too, because every filmmaker that I've spoken with, there's usually like a genre or movie or director that kind of speaks to them and kind of informs their aesthetic. Um, were there any particular movies or directors or actors that kind of spoke to you that kind of said, maybe if I lift a little bit from here, that might make the story a little bit better.
I mean, there are really two. I think that the like when you talk about the greatest filmmakers of all time, I think these people don't really get mentioned as much, but I think they're definitely in the conversation, and or they should be in the conversation, and that's the Coen brothers. I think.
Right.
I mean, people don't when they talk about the greatest, they never mention the Coen brothers, but it's like they've made, in my opinion, like some of the greatest films ever of all time.
Yeah, and yeah, that's why I don't. That's what I find a little bit odd is the fact that the Coen Brothers had made legitimately good movies, but but obviously everybody defaults to the big ones like Spielberg, Lucas, um,
Kubrick,
Nolan, yeah,
Scorsese.
Kubrick, yep,
I love
exactly.
Scorsese too. Don't get me wrong. I love Scorsese, and he's probably my favorite filmmaker. But I'm gonna go with Coen Brothers because they're underrated. I think.
Well, there's also a certain charm to the way that they make their movies, is because when you watch a movie that whatever movie they make, there's this element to them that you're like, yeah, that's actually that's actually pretty unique. It's
Yeah,
an atmosphere that you don't get in any other movies. It's kind of like if you watch a Nolan film, for instance. There's always a bit of dread to them, whether it's The Dark
yeah,
Knight or Oppenheimer. What about horror movies? Because I know you said that horror is another genre that kind of you
yeah.
know
So horror movies, there's not really as many horror filmmakers I found. There's more modern day, like Ari Aster, Robert Eggers. But if you go back in history, it's like there's directors who've made really good horror movies, but like a horror director. I mean, my favorite horror, if you could like Hereditary recently, The Exorcist, Silence of the Lambs, stuff like that. Just the classics.
gotcha. So obviously 2020 2021 they're pretty how shall I phrase it? shitty years, um, in
Yeah.
terms of what you can and can't do. And you're writing a lot during that time.
Mhm.
Were there d- were there any ideas or notions that kind of made you think, I really want to go ahead and try to make a movie? Because a few people that I've interviewed, had actually gone out and made films during lockdown. Did you ever venture that far, or were you just mostly confined to writing?
Well, I made a short film in 2021. So I guess that would be the closest thing to that.
Okay. And can you talk me through the process of what that was like? Because 2021 was still a
Yeah.
pretty awful year.
Yeah, it was June 2021, and it was a completely non-union, completely independent. Budget of $300. It's like just going on Craigslist and saying, "Hey, anyone want to make a short film?" And finding people and getting them to come out and making a short film. And since I was director and producer, I mean, the whole film was shot outside, so it was like, if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't have to. Like, it's up to you. So we had some people masked up, some people not. I didn't wear a mask. It was just up to you. I mean, we're outside, it like at that point people were vaccinated, I wasn't worried about it.
So so when you were making that film, was it all self-funded, or did you do a crowdfund to try to
Well,
get some
it
funds
was
in?
only a $300 budget,
It
so it
was
was,
okay.
yeah.
Gotcha. So so after that movie, everything kind of starts going back to normal. Has
Yeah.
your were there any other projects that you made since then, or are there any current projects that you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, I'm always kind of working on projects. So that next year I moved back home, and I basically I know the timeline's a little weird. I don't want to really go into it because it was definitely a complicated, difficult time for me, as it was for a lot of other people.
Right.
But so I basically set out to make one short film a month after that, and I ended up making, like, that year, 2022. I ended up making like 8 short films, and um, they're all like low quality as far as cinematography, sound goes. But my goal was just really to just, okay, what can I make? Like, what resources do I have? What locations do I have? What people want to help out? What can I actually make? And then write the stories around that.
So so that's actually a pretty interesting challenge. Was that something that you kind of like challenged yourself to do to try to
Yeah.
make? Okay.
Well,
Um.
I'm trying. I look at it as I'm putting myself through film school, and right now I look at it as I think I'm in my junior year of the Matlow Film School.
So okay. So we're like trying to like doing an assignment each month to kind of see how far you developed in terms of your skill set, right?
Yeah, just to get practice too.
Gotcha. So can you talk about the logistics? Because I mean, making a short film each month. I mean, however short or whatever equipment you may have, I can't imagine it's an easy task. Can you talk me through like how you went about like even accomplishing something like that?
Well, I mean, each short film's its own story, but there was a few that I made with by myself, where I was just me, the camera, and just a one character story. Where I shoot everything and I act, and that's easy because I can just create the schedule completely on my own. And there was a few where it was just like, oh, let's like spend a weekend with a couple friends and we'll just make a short film. And then I did that a couple times, and a couple documentaries, where I like just went to because I wanted to get into documentaries, and so I wanted to experiment with that. And so I went to a couple skate parks and just started interviewing kids skating and just talking about their lives. And yeah, just going out there and just doing it.
So I actually do want to ask you about that. So in terms of documentary filmmaking,
Mhm.
what I mean, what prompted you to decide, what, maybe I should kind of branch out and start doing, start focusing on real lives and real events and real individuals? What made you decide to do that instead of the usual, short film that's fictional.
It's so cheap. You can make a feature for $5,000. You can make a feature documentary for five grand. Versus
Really?
yeah,
Good lord.
yeah, it's so cheap because you just go out and you interview people.
Did you have a particular subject in mind, or did you just go
Yeah.
up to some people and okay?
Yeah, you have a subject in mind, you pick a subject and you pick a location and you set up interviews. And sometimes you do street interviews where you don't know who you're going to interview, but you set them up and you set up a time and you schedule everything out. And yeah, I shot 2 documentaries last year. I shot one, and I'm still editing both of them, but I shot one in Mount Shasta about cryptids and people who have spiritual and paranormal beliefs. And then I shot one in Venice Beach where about the culture and the history there. And I just interviewed people on the street there for 3 days, and I'm still planning on doing some reshoots for that one this summer.
Okay. So in terms of planning the documentary, how do you go about trying to decide like what story do you want to tell? Because I mean, because any documentary story that any documentary film that you make, I mean, the subject's going to be pretty broad and pretty huge. How do you narrow it down? How do you kind of focus on a particular angle that you want to go with? How do you do that?
Well, it's just opportunity. It's what like opportunity do you have to tell a specific story? What people do you have access to talk to? You know.
Do you plan on releasing it in the film festival circuits?
Yeah, I'm planning on releasing both of these in the film festival circuit.
Okay. Cool. I'm assuming this is gonna be sometime this year.
That's
if
the
everything
goal.
goes well. Okay.
Yep.
So so another thing. So I want to circle back around to what you said earlier about being a writer and and wanting to be a poet. Do you still find time to write poetry? Because I know you said that was something that you were fascinated with.
Not really. I mean, very rarely I'll get inspired to write a poem, but you know, I'm not really. I mean, I have hundreds of poems I've written over the years. Down the line, I'd like to publish a book of poetry and like curate my best poems. But that's going to be something like, who the hell would buy that? You know, that'd be something if I become like a successful filmmaker, then it'd be like, okay, now I want to read this guy's poems. But yeah, now there's no point doing it now. I just have those ready to go.
Have you ever considered like taking these poems and kind of turning them into short films? Because I remember reading somewhere a few years ago how James Franco kind of worked with some students to take short poems and turn them into films. Has that ever crossed your mind?
Yeah, I've been inspired by poems to make short films, definitely.
So you've got the 2 documentary films that you're working in post. What other projects do you have in in the books for this year?
Well, my goal is to after I'm going to edit those, and my goal is to shoot a feature found footage horror film this year.
Where are you in terms of the production? Like, have you gotten the script, or is it still
I'm still
concept?
writing it.
Still writing? Okay.
Yeah, I'm writing it right now.
Gotcha. Hopefully, you'll have it released by October, maybe ish.
Doubtful, but my goal is to get it shot this year and then get it released next year. That's my goal.
Okay. Cool. So Matt, if people want to check out your work, or if they want to learn more about you, where can they go?
Just go to YouTube and just type Prototype Productions, or go to prototypefilmproductions.com.
Okay, gotcha. And if you'll send me the link, I'll put them down in the description below, and people can check your work out.
Nice.
But before we sign off, Matt, as this is a movie podcast, I do have to ask: is there a particular movie or TV show that you've seen recently that you just want to gush about?
Well, I mean, we're at the beginning of the year, so talking about like best movie of 2023. I think there are a few contenders. I think what's definitely not going to get nominated for Best Picture, but I think should probably win, is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I think was the greatest achievement in film this year, or this past year. But there's no way it gets nominated for anything besides animated film, which is very sad.
I mean, but that's the thing, though. It's because everybody. I mean, even to this day, people still think a good movie has to be a very serious movie. But I mean, but people kind of forget that with Into the Across the Spider-Verse, there's a lot going on there that kind of makes you stop and think, wow, I can't believe they put this in a superhero movie. This is actually pretty deep.
Yeah, definitely.
It's
And
actually one
just
of
as
those.
far as filmmaking goes, and just like art direction, just style and everything, it's just the greatest. It's just the greatest achievement this past year.
I
But
was gonna say,
Oppenheimer's gonna win though. Oppenheimer was great. Don't get me
oh,
wrong.
oh yeah. I mean, anytime you have a Nolan film in the mix, I mean, it'd be a shock if it didn't win. But I mean, like, but another thing too, and I mentioned this to my friend after we saw it. There's a bit of a gothic element, a bit of a horror element to it, if you think about
To
it.
Oppenheimer?
Yeah,
Oh
because
yeah, for sure. I mean, it was a horrific thing.
yeah, and even though it's supposed to be a war movie, I mean, just the imagery, the use of light, the way that the way that the story was written, you can tell there's this sort of Frankenstein quality to it because obviously Oppenheimer creates this machine that now is ubiquitous and all over the world, and they
Yeah,
have the potential to wipe out all mankind. So that's a pretty scary thought when you think about it. Um,
oh, for sure.
but Matt, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be on this podcast. And I also want to say you are the first guest of 2024. I'm going to say that over and over again because it's a brand new year. We are looking forward to bringing more guests on the show. So Matt, thank you so much for being the first on the calendar, and we look forward to having you back to discuss many future projects. I definitely want to bring you back to talk about that cryptids documentary because now you've piqued my interest in that.
Yeah, let's get in touch when it's ready to release. Yeah, let's get in touch.
Excellent. Well, I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to watch this episode. And remember, if you are enjoying the content, remember to like, comment, subscribe. Help the audience and channel grow. We definitely appreciate it. And we're also on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. And we're working to get set up on other podcasting platforms. But again, thank you so much for watching. And we'll catch you on the flip side.
Thanks, Luca.